岁月、环境、规则 ，LPL 在不断改变。6年中，有许多人问我，你为什么还在坚持？这局游戏对你究竟意味着什么？
全军出击！
我见过最美的风景，也听过最热烈的欢呼。为了所有这些，我愿意付出一切。
这局游戏是一段旅途，有人中途停留，也有人会做到最后，而终点只不过是另一个起点。
50的血量，50的血量！
我不走那么多是非曲折，这局游戏赢就对了。
이번 게임의 낭만은 0부터 100처럼 무명에서부터 이름을 날리는 것이다.
我从来都没有后悔过自己走过的路。 这局游戏的魅力就在于创造奇迹。
많은 사람들이 전설을 보는 것에 열광하지만 다른 사람들이 그 뒤에서 흘리는 땀에 대해서는 잘 보지 못합니다. 하지만 이러한 땀이 없었다면 저희는 다시 이곳으로 돌아오지 못했을 겁니다.
欢迎来到英雄联盟。
会变的是人和环境，不变的是游戏最后的胜利画面。
我明白，这场游戏就是成王败寇。
但是不到最后，我不会放弃对王冠的追逐。
这局游戏需要牺牲，无私奉献，去成就团队的胜利。
他还需要领袖，不管遇到什么困难，都和同伴一起扛下去。
是我最喜欢的玩
具。LPL 需要年轻的力量，是时候让我们来接管比赛了。
想成为这场游戏的主角吗？打败我吧！我们的时代还远没有结束。
Hello and welcome, ladies and gents, to the LPL 2018 Spring Split, and we're back the day after yesterday, which was week 2, and now we're back for week 3, day 1. It never stops in the LPL. Keeps on going, and for RNG it's exactly what's happening. So they'll be taking on Rogue Warriors today, and you can see they're just they got the fan signs out as well. They're going to be distributing them to the fans, and they do that at the entrance. On the opposite side, Rogue Warriors, Smlz looking excited as ever. My name is Richard Cam. I'm your host for today, and alongside me is Indiana Frostgear. But I can't get rid of you. It feels like we're just next to each other every single day on the analyst desk.
It's only your pleasure that you get to sit next to me, Paul. So
yes, absolutely.
Just 100%. Be
happy. I will be happy, Frost. We're actually going to go ahead and recap the standings since we have had a full week of action. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. BLG is still at the top, but alongside them now, Snake and EDG are joining them.
Yeah, no mistakes right here. You can see that our top 3 teams, RNG, EDG, and W, are currently struggling up the standings. EDG did just win their last series that we saw them in, but RNG and WE both on struggle sheet. RNG falling to JD, who are currently sitting on top of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, alongside them though, IG nipping at the heels alongside Sunan and RNG, who we'll see in our first game of today.
Yeah, and then quick reminder, all the teams that are grayed out, only the top 4 make it into playoffs. So if you're not in that top 4, you're not going to playoffs.
Yep, simple as that. Now, we have a lot of games coming your way on our first day of week 3, so let's go ahead and take a look at them. We'll be starting the day, as we said, with Rogue Warriors versus RNG. And RNG, I want to say this is usually like an RNG favored matchup, but they're 2-2 right now alongside Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, it should be much closer than teams expect. Again, it's kind of, can RNG get back on the bike and get back into form? But today is actually super exciting. Unfortunately, not a lot of Western fans will be familiar with a lot of these teams. You know, it's not the big names outside of RNG, but JD versus Suning are actually battling for first in their conference, and Rogue Warriors and RNG are currently tied up in the standings. So again, trying to reach back for relevance.
Yeah, it's news to some, but pretty much every team is able to beat every team in this league right now, and it's not just because the top teams are slumping, everyone's just playing really well.
And it's also a huge injection of so many talented rookies. We're going to see Yagao and Knight both performing the mid laners for JD and Suning respectively, and if you don't know them, you should learn those names because they're pretty big deals.
Now, it's actually worth investigating why this is going so well for the LPL, and I feel like it has to do something with the patch, something with the meta, because when you look at the game times, it's like, hang on, our games are ending very quickly compared to the world average.
Yeah, real talk, I keep seeing all of this like disgruntledness about the patch. Oh, this patch sucks. The meta is so boring. This is so awful. You guys aren't watching the right league then. You can see below on your screen the average LPL game time versus the world average, and we are 7 minutes faster than them. So I kind of chalk it up to a couple of different ideas, and it's 3 different tools. Yes, this is the inspiration meta, but if you give more gold to our supports via the Relic Shield siphons, if you allow our players to play Kog'Maw in vain because they've got the overheal protection, and then if you give us the ability to dive towers with stopwatch, suddenly you get these crazy, exciting, very creative, fast-paced, bloody games.
Yeah, and there's like so many tools right now that people are like, oh, you can be so defensive, you can't dive anyone because they have stopwatch. It's like, no, you can use your stopwatch to be offensive and just murder them, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So when people are running 7 inspiration trees, that's actually a good thing, allowing the LPL to thrive.
And you'll get a perfect example of that today because Suning is playing later on, and currently they are the bloodiest team in the world right now. If you haven't seen it on Reddit, it was a top play where they were diving with 6 or 7 stopwatches that went off in the initial play, and they've done that multiple times. So definitely check out how Suning are creatively using the inspiration patch to get around the map.
Yeah, Clement was telling me someone dies every 76 seconds in the Suning game, so to keep your stopwatches
Came to the right day.
Because yeah, everyone's just going to keep dying continuously in that matchup. But let's go ahead and start talking about our first matchup of today, which is Rogue Warriors versus RNG. Now, usually, as we were saying before, this is an RNG favored matchup, but they have been dropping games specifically to JD, who we'll see later in the day.
Yeah, and I do want to echo what JD said when we have them in the interview afterwards, and they just said we played better on the day. And I do agree with that even though RNG fell down to JD Gaming, not to take anything away from them, I still feel that RNG are the better team. Now, right now, the context is, what is their roster? Who is starting for them? Because they've got 2 top laners, 2 junglers, 3 ADCs, like, it just goes on, and we haven't seen head or tails of Uzi. Probably won't see him until after Chinese New Year. That's my suspicion, but it's kind of what form of RNG you're going to get in, and when do we start holding them accountable of having the name Royal Never Give Up?
Yeah, and to be honest, it does happen every year. It's just like Royal Never Give Up will look like they're slumping before Chinese New Year, and then they'll literally just win every single series afterwards, so there's less concern on that front. However, for Rogue Warriors, they were very much touted by the Chinese community as a super team. And I don't see a super team. That's not what I've seen so far. We've seen some very good players like Flawless on his Lee Sin, for example. He's been extremely strong in the champion, but I haven't seen the team come together yet.
And the thing is while we do get great individual performances like Flawless on his Lee Sin, RW's strength won't really come together until the synergy is there. These aren't players that you look at them and like mechanically they're the best player in the league, even though we are going to show you some of the incredible plays that they are capable of. But this is Doinb, this is Smlz. They're good players, but they're not going to brute force through someone. RW need to rely on their synergy and their brains over brawn if they want to take down the LPL, and that takes more time than all of these great injections of new blood, new talent that are just mechanically top tier. Now that said, you give this guy Lee Sin, he will remind everyone that he is a Lee Sin one-trick, and he'll flex on you.
He will, and it's pretty much if you give specific champions to any player, like a Kog'Maw to Smlz, for example, you give Doinb his picks, then they will style on you in lane, but it's just like, how does a team come together, right? And it's a very interesting discussion when you think about what makes an actual good player, because you look at Doinb and everyone's like, oh, he's just been on bad teams, but then he joins a team of all good players, and it's still not working out. At some point, if it smells bad everywhere, you have to check your own shoe.
That said, I also think this is almost a conversation that you could extend to someone like Bjergsen as well. I know Bjergsen was suffering a lot of backlash because TSM were very rocky to start.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this idea that no one is ever going to deny that Doinb and Bjergsen are amazing players. But there is no way that there are so few players that you can just slot them into any team and you automatically get an amazing team. Each great player is going to have their strengths and their weaknesses, and I think Doinb and Bjergsen kind of sit in that similar boat where, yes, it's an incredible talent, but just because you put them on a team, if you don't build around them, if you don't slot them into the proper situations, you will have falters there, and I think that's what we really see with Doinb. Theoretically, though, I think that this should be a good circumstance for Doinb, you know, pairing up with Flawless, a very hyper-aggressive jungler where you have a very supportive, tanky-oriented mid laner, but the synergy just isn't quite there yet.
Well, that's really it, right? Because what truly makes a really good player, because I know there are players in this league who you could very easily just transplant from one team to another. Like, I know you were talking about Xiaohu just before we went live, and it's like, you could very much just put him on any team, and it would be an instant upgrade because he can do well on low resources, lots of resources, like any situation you put him in. Right, exactly.
Exactly, and that's the thing, and not every player has the ability to be faker and play any champion and play, you know, low resource, high resource, anything like that. So Xiaohu does come to mind, but the other big one is Uzi. I couldn't put Uzi. I mean, we've actually played that experiment. We created a super team with OMG in 2015. We put Uzi on it, and guess what? OMG almost got relegated. Like, it was a complete disaster. So even though no one would ever argue that Uzi isn't one of the greatest ADCs to play the game, you still need to build a team around him.
Yeah, and what really does make a good play, we're going to take a look at our best of the week as well. We can see what some of our best players that have been performing so far. And you can see FLICKR, I mean, it's no real surprise, but it's a bit of a surprise to see pretty much the entirety of this Snake roster.
Yeah, but the thing is one of the names that you probably haven't recognized is Killua in the mid laner. And like I said, we keep saying it, there is so much new and great talent in the LPL right now, and Killua happens to be one of them. This guy was hot fired, to borrow a phrase from Raz, on his Ryze this last week, and it's part of the core reason why Snake have suddenly skyrocketed up the standings.
It was a bit shocking as well, because Killua, he played a little last split and was nothing really to write home about. You watch Killua play and it was just like, wow, it's another okay in terms of mechanics mid laner who just slotted into a team, but now he just actually looks really good. On the opposite side, you have Baolan in the bottom lane as well. Used to be called Megan. This guy still very good. Haven't seen the classic Megan Baolan play though, where he goes around mid side with the mobility boots, just top of mid, goes for the gank, but he's just performing very well in this role.
Yeah, it's starting to slow down a little bit. Normally, Baolan is a very aggressive, in-your-face support, like a lot of them are in the LPL. Again, if you give a lot of gold to our supports, they will just engage on you and start fights. This is not going to be a moment, because the thing is, everyone says the games get drawn out because champions like Azir are very high priority. They just wave clear forever, and even if you get Baron, you can't break a base. That's exactly what happened in that hour-and-a-half-long Janair game. But with the LPL, if you give our tanks that much gold, they have the confidence and the execution that they'll get the dive correct. You know, they're not gonna back out. They're not going to be cowards about this.
And to be honest, supports right now are rich. And as soon as 8.2 hits as well, which will be next week, they're going to be super rich. Like, they just have so much gold. I actually wonder if the meta will start shifting towards more damage supports versus just the tanks, or whether the tanks will just get even beefier and just continue to engage.
I mean, the interesting thing is it's not just the tank supports anymore, but it's also the fact that all of our AD carries and our supports are running teleport now, or the unsealed spellbook. So suddenly you have, you know, our supports in base, a team fight breaks out, they swap out their exhaust, and they come flying into the initiation. We're like, who's that teleporting in? The mid laner's already there. The top, oh god, it's
I'll tell you what, it really confuses me as a play-by-play, because I usually go towards top or mid, and I'm just like, ah, yes, the top. No, the AD carries teleporting in. We saw a Cogmore teleport flank gank the other day, and it's just like, I just don't know who's teleporting nowadays.
And of course, the strength of taking unsealed spellbook is that if you're someone like a Kog'Maw, naturally you have a lot of bad lane matchups, but if you then go even at all in lane and then use the teleport to control the creep wave and make sure that you're never missing experience, guess what? You won because you're a Kog'Maw.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just why inspiration just works so incredibly well for this league. So it's just, as you said, it's hilarious just to see every other region so slow in their games. So it's just like, just watch the LPL. We've got action for days. Every single matchup will be hype.
Not everyone wants to take the gamble that the LPL players like to take. We believe in the 51%, that if it comes down to a 50-50, guess what? We're that 1% better.
Yeah, we'll be better than you, so we can just be better and win the fight. So, yeah, very excited to see what the teams do with it today as well. As we said, still want to patch 8.1, so teams will still be taking the Relic Shield in the bot lane. We'll still be seeing all of that as we take a look at our players here.
Yeah, you can see that the players have taken the stage, and it's Rogue Warriors versus RNG, and my featured matchup is, of course, going to be in the jungle. We talked about Flawless, we saw some of his Lee Sin plays, and he's looking across at the duo of Mlxg and Karsa. Now, Mlxg has been the primary starter for RNG, but he's had some individual missteps. Sometimes you see the Mlxd, sometimes you see the Mlxg. I mean, they started with Karsa, fumbled that game, Mlxg came down and seemed to save the day.
I mean, they've said it themselves, they're pretty much just looking at what works best for them right now. You can see Letme in the top lane, but Zatai is behind him, Mlxg in the jungle, but you've got Karsa behind him, Xiaohu in the mid lane, Abel, Ming, and there's like a billion AD carries trying to vie for that first spot there alongside Abel.
And across from them on the red side, it is going to be Rogue Warriors, the theoretical Chinese super team, even though they have 2 Koreans on them, but that's fine. Mouse, Flawless, Doinb, Smlz, and Killua are 2 Koreans being Flawless and Doinb, but they're LPL careers.
Yeah, to be honest, Doinb would not see him as a Korean player at this point. He's just been here forever, and you'd probably liken him to someone like Rookie at this point.
And again, if you're looking at Mlxg and Xiaohu and Abel and all those crazy names on RNG, for Rogue Warriors, you're really looking at Doinb and how he unlocks around his jungler. Flawless is supposedly, I guess, the guy that's been stepping up and being the carry. Mlxg, Smlz. We'll get a lot of abbreviations in this game.
Yeah, we do.
It's going to be rough for the play. Smlz will carry late game, but Flawless is the guy to pay attention to get everything going early.
Yeah, very similar to W in that sense, that the jungle will be the person that they're pivoting around. But either way, we're going to send it over to our casters to get us into game 1.
Thank you very much, Pulse and FLICKR, and I'm Fish. Joining me is Rusty. We're about to get into game number 1 of week 3, day 1 of the LPL. And Rusty, this is going to be an exciting matchup. Rogue Warriors are going up against RNG.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are currently tied at 2-2 on the standings, and both teams recently have lost to LGD. And I know that's a weird place to start it off, but we've seen some inconsistencies from the rosters. We've also seen some strengths. However, most recently, it has been those inconsistencies, has been those defeats. And that's what makes this matchup super exciting, because we know they both have the potential to be great, but we haven't seen that greatness really come about just yet. And it's RNG, a semi-finalist from Worlds. They are a great team. They're just not really going at 100 yet.
They certainly are not. LGD were able to pick up 2 victories over RNG, as well as Rogue Warriors, as Rusty mentioned. And we won't be seeing LGD play today, but that's an important note, because they did not look strong coming into the split. They lost their opening match in Hangzhou at the LGD Arena.
They did.
Now, these 2 teams, as you mentioned, 2-2 on the ladder, want to be try to chase Snake, who is currently leading the conference.
Yeah, chasing Snake, things I never thought I'd say in 2018 for 500. Yeah, Snake look very good, these teams needing to catch them, and I guess the place you'd have to look at regarding that is, if I'm Rogue Warriors, or if I'm RNG, how do I beat my opponents to get up there? Not so much, how am I going to improve myself right now? We're on stage to beat the enemies, and for me, I'm looking at top lane, and I would say that Rogue Warriors got rivened by LGD, and if I was RNG and I was looking at that and said, well, a Riven just absolutely bopped our Gangplank, then perhaps there is a world where Gangplank can be countered, and that might be something that RNG look at.
We'll have to see how they do just as we head into Champions League. By chasing Snake, you know, that's the wrong conference. Sorry about that. Wrong side of the table.
Everyone's chasing Snake anyway, Fish.
Well, we're going to get into Champions League for game number 1.
Worlds.
We have Kog'Maw as well as Braum being banned up RNG. And Galio is the final ban from RNG against Doinb there. Azir and Camille will hit the bench as well from Rogue Warriors, looking for their final ban against RNG.
Yeah, Galio started to rise in priority through the meta, of course, one of the best mid laners now running around. Opens up the potential for carries in the jungle, carries in the top lane, so to see that one taken away does limit the mid lane pool just that little bit more. However, it is pretty much the only mid lane ban besides the Azir, so Ryze is still up and available for Doinb.
Alistar's the final ban from Rogue Warriors, a ban that we saw very commonly in the first week, but for now, it's been a staple ban against RNG support Ming, who had a few highlight plays with the champion. Sejuani is the first lock-in for RNG, a very popular jungler at the moment.
Interesting that it is the first pick for me. Now, the thing that is important to point out about this is that Mlxg is the Sejuani player and Flawless is not. He's the Lee Sin guy.
And that's what they lock in. Lee Sin gets picked up for Flawless, as Smlz will pick up Ezreal. And it almost feels like Rogue Warriors are relying on Flawless at this point to pick up that Lee Sin.
But Mlxg doesn't really care. It seems RNG don't seem to be too stressed out by the fact that he's locked in his above and beyond best champion. Something that he has won games for Rogue Warriors with. He's on highlight reels everywhere in the LPL right now. And they've just willingly given that one over to him. You can't help but feel like they've made it harder for themselves.
Well, let's see if they have a plan in play to try and take down this Lee Sin from Flawless in the jungle. RNG lock in Ornn as the next pick. That's a flex between Ming as well as Letme.
Yeah, Ornn may well be the flex. If you're going to flex it, then an AD carrier or a mid laner will be locked in as their 3rd rotation. I wouldn't mind mid. Priority on Ryze still crops up to me. And there is the Zoe and all of these other hovers, bar those 2.
Zoe as well as Vladimir still left up and available. 2 very popular LPL picks. Zoe seems to be the pick of a choice or not. RNG swap over instead, going towards their supports that don't even use the flex of the Ornn, showing that will be a top lane pick for Letme. And Tahm Kench heads into the bottom lane for Ming.
Yeah, so instead of actually flexing that role, they do just lock it in straight away. And it's a big priority actually placed towards the Tahm Kench, someone that can roam around the rift. Still the #1 support in my eyes, regardless. Should be locked in by RNG. I respect that decision. But now it also reveals where the Ornn is going, and immediately Rogue Warriors, they pick against it.
Gangplank gets taken into the top lane for Mouse, going up against Ornn. We see this matchup quite a bit. It's gone one of 2 ways, leading with Gangplank pushing in or Ornn doing the exact same thing.
Well, it needs one of 2 things as well, either to be ganked or to be left alone. If it's left alone and Ornn can push, then he'll get outscaled eventually. But if there's ganks up there, that's when the lane starts to shift, and it isn't just a farm battle against a kleptomancy Gangplank.
Moving into the second ban rotation, RNG still looking to pick up their mid laner of choice for Xiaohu, as well as their AD carry for Abel, who will be starting in this best of 3 series for RNG. Varus is the ban that comes out from Rogue Warriors against Abel.
He did have a very strong Varus performance last we saw RNG playing as well. Him and Xiaohu on the Orianna. Outstanding game between the two of them, and another AD carry targeted away from Abel. It's only really the 3 AD carry bans, however, and with an Ezreal locked in, there is definitely a world here where it's just a Vayne. I'm not against the Vayne in this instance.
Well, Cassidy is the final ban from RNG, and those 3 AD carry bans are going to be the Varus as well as the Caitlyn. Kalista still left up and available here.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, Kalista Tahm Kench is a decent duo if Kalista's ever with a tank. It's easy to throw them in. Not with a range carry, though, where they could double up on the passive. And they still don't know who Rogue Warrior's support is, so we'll have to see where they go as everything settles.
Well, they head towards the Janna. It's the pickup of choice for Killua in the bottom lane, leaving final pick for Doinb. As Abel decides not to go towards a Kalista.
With knowledge of the 2v2 matchup, of course, acknowledging that Xayah is a champion that wants to go backwards. Any champion that wants to go forwards is harder to play against the Janna, as RNG also just finished out their entire comp.
Yep, final pick for RNG is going to be Zoe in the mid lane for Xiaohu. Rogue Warriors now will be able to pick what Doinb wants into that matchup. Still plenty of mid lane picks to go through. Ryze is one that stands out.
Ryze is also the one that makes the most sense, Fish, so of course it will be locked in there for Doinb. That's a champion that we mentioned at pick number 1 after all of the bans came about. RNG, they prioritized the Zoe, and rightly so, of course. Zoe is a super strong champion, but Doinb, if he runs Cleanse in lane, rushes the Abyssal Mask, he'll have a hard time actually being killed, and that's exactly what Doinb wants.
Yep, he certainly will. Mlxg were having some flashbacks to the redemption kill that was used against him in the last match he played against Zoe.
Maybe that's why Xiaohu started to play it more.
Yeah, Mlxg said, no, you play Zoe, or I'm not ganking your lane ever again.
Now the redemption heals me. It's genius. I don't think that's what they were saying at all.
Probably not. But Zoe's still a very strong pick. We saw throughout the first week of the LPL, in fact during All-Stars as well, was one of the highest priority of champions. Has been nerfed slightly since. Still very popular in the mid lane, but now is kind of falling through drafts and also being picked up last, like we saw here for RNG.
Still has that priority, just not as high as a lot of other characters running around. Kog'Maw and Braum even getting banned in this game alongside the Alistar. And that's the first place I'd have to look now that the draft has been completely finished. Tahm Kench locked in 3rd by RNG, with no priority given towards that for Rogue Warriors. I don't like that they went for the Lee Sin 2nd after Sejuani was locked in. I would have much preferred the Tahm Kench in that rotation to round it out with a 3rd pick in the jungle. But as it stands, RNG with a complete composition, Ornn, Sejuani, Zoe, Xayah, like that is absurdly strong. And then you add the Tahm Kench in as the #1 support left standing. They have got a superstar lineup of champions.
They certainly do. On the flip side for Rogue Warriors though, they're not that weak themselves. Ezreal and Janna in the bottom lane, a very strong bottom lane duo. With the Ryze being picked up by Doinb, flawless on his signature champion, a Mouse who's been stepping up as not only the tank player that we previously knew him to be, but also a huge carry threat for Rogue Warriors.
Of course, and the amount of times we've seen a Gangplank outscale the Ornn at 20 minutes and just hard carry a game. Out of control, honestly, running around in the LPL. Flawless on his signature champion, can win the entire game by himself. So there is a very real-world possibility where Rogue Warriors can take it to RNG, even against their S-tier composition.
We'll have to see how they're going to be able to do just that.
They're there.
I'm not happy. I gave them the time, the space, you know, waited.
Well, they changed when they did it. They got you.
And then they waited for a while before. You know, normally it's when we get onto someone's rift, they're like, oh yeah, let's go. Who gets the first one? And then today they're like, you know, we're just going to wait until Fish starts talking and then we do it.
Oh, unlucky, Fish. You don't get to make your
Not
point.
happy. Not happy.
You know what they say.
What do they say, Rusty?
No, I said you know what they say. I was hoping you'd know.
No,
I have no idea.
I don't know what they say, Rusty.
Oh, this is backfired.
Flawless is going to be starting on the top side of the map here, picking up red buff. We'll get a slight leash coming out from Mouse, whereas in the bottom lane, Mlxg will be starting on his own red buff. Yeah. Very rare that we see junglers path on opposite sides of the map.
Yeah, usually you won't see, in this case, of course, the Lee Sin starting on the top laner's side of the map. If he's up against an Ornn who has Ignite, losing any kind of wave control could be painful for him. It's not going to mean a great deal, but what we look at is actually just the junglers from there as the end result. There's also occasionally possibilities that Lee Sin will gank top lane against the Ornn to actually start off the Gangplank on the right foot. It's cheeky, but it's definitely a possibility. That'd never be vision. But RNG were meant to be clued into that fact, and instead they haven't even warded. So whilst that was possible, Flawless is not going to go that direction. He's just going to commit to a full clear and maybe look towards the bottom lane Scuttle Crab.
Xiaohu in the mid lane here, throwing a ward down in the middle of the lane. That was pinged out by Doinb, so must be expected to be shoved in by this Ryze. Ryze is one of the champions we've seen used against Gangplanks to try and get those early dives going with an aggressive jungler. This time around, Rogue Warriors have it on their side to protect the Gangplank almost. Yeah, certainly do. Ryze also very much capable of going towards top lane or bringing Lee Sin to the top lane as well. Could also go bottom, and there's plenty of opportunities to utilize that Ryze when Doinb's on it, trying to help his jungler at every possible moment and avenue. And it's something that he will often do. Oh, that almost reset. Hello. Flawless, able to not only take down the blue buff, but also move over towards Scuttle Crab. Gets spotted out by a ward. But we'll be able to take that one down. Sejuani trying to avoid all the wards inside of Flawless's jungle. He did get the counter jungling going onto the Krugs.
Interestingly, Doinb started with cleanse and champion select for the Zoe, but he switched to heal at the last second. I think that was either acknowledgement or expectations that Xiaohu himself would have the cleanse to have a little bit less kill pressure. There's no ignite on the Zoe in mid lane. As junglers duke it out.
Flawless going to be able to dodge out from the chains. And we'll be fine. Just gets a couple of raptors for his troubles.
You know, the first and foremost thing that you have to always look towards when junglers find each other is where is the mid laner? The Xiaohu picks up teleport and just wants to show everybody what teleport does.
I feel like he was trying to deny Doinb's last hit.
He
there.
was, yeah.
Oh no. That is actually disgusting.
You know, I've seen everything now, I think, for Zoe. Surely there is nothing else that a Zoe could do that would surprise you. We've seen redemption snipes. We've seen the craziest things happen.
Well, we haven't seen this too much in the LPL, but we've played games together, Rusty, where we've seen triple redemptions in the bottom lane at 4 minutes into the match.
Yes, we certainly have. And I aim to never see that again.
Well, hopefully not. But in the mid lane, Zoe's doing just fine, pushing in Doinb quite effectively. Top side of the map, you can see that Ornn is starting to push in against Mouse. You'd expect that early into the match, and slowly Mouse will be able to scale up. But he's been left to his own devices on the top side of the map, farming as much as he'd like.
Yeah, it's not one of those matchups where you have an exceptionally bad time as the Gangplank. You should get pushed in often. Also, fun fact, Xiaohu just used Dematerializer on the minion that was being teleported to. The minion dies. So now we know what happens in that interaction.
Doesn't cancel the teleport, though.
No, it doesn't cancel the teleport, but it helps with your recall timing. You don't awkwardly stay around and lose a trade and then have them cancel your recall 16 times like every other time it happens. Just because of one minion, as one minion can actually make the difference when you're looking at wave control in the middle lane. I think that's actually kind of cute.
Fair play coming up from Zoe in the mid lane. We see 3 unsealed spellbooks being picked up by RNG as well. For the side of Rogue Warriors, just Doinb picking up that keystone. It has become a lot more popular. Yes, we saw the likes of Zoe, the likes of Ornn pick it up very early into Season 8. But now we see a lot more AD carries like Abel trying to use these Keystone Mastery as well.
Yeah, more often than not, they have to be a hyper carry in the AD carry position, though, to justify going towards it. If Ashe was running around on the Rift, there is a very low chance compared to something like the Vayne, the Kog'Maw, and the Xayah that you've seen that have it. Ezreal also, as an edge case, will always have Kleptomancy, so you probably will not see that on him just yet.
We're still on patch 8.1, so Relic Shield's in the bottom lane. Flawless now looking to try and get behind Xiaohu. Even a teleport coming in for Doinb, but Mlxg is here. Good tag damage on towards the Zoe. Flawless gets the execute damage down as well. Pops his stopwatch nice and early, and now it's going to be Killua that joins the fight as well. Ornn even trying to come back down, throws the ram back. Mlxg gets that first kill on towards Flawless. Xiaohu jumps away, but he will send him to sleep first. Doinb fighting this one out with Smlz. Tries to take off Ming, but he's going to run back as well. Meanwhile, Mlxg low on health, forced out of the fight. Letme trying to cut this one back. Doinb very low. Abel jumps in the fight as well. Mlxg wants to come back in. Rogue Warriors trade back. And they're able to take down one, but still RNG get the first blood.
We hit 6 minutes in the game and absolute chaos just breaks out. Everybody's coming down except for Mouse, who's just going to be hanging out up in the top lane. So whilst it's traded 1-for-1, yes, there's maybe a small advantage to the first blood going over to Mlxg. There's actually just a big summoner spell trade, and the real winner is Mouse. All of this time, he has caught up the CS difference. He's denying experience under the turret, and ever since he teleports to lane, that's when the play is actually made from RNG. And I really like this from RNG. They've said we have a teleport advantage. He just used the top. He comes in to fight. But with all of the stopwatches that happen, all of the time that is bought as a result of those stopwatches, it doesn't really matter too much in the end because it buys enough time for Rogue Warriors to get here first, to contribute first, and that's what makes the trade equal.
On top of that, they picked a fight while Smlz and Killua were pushing that bottom lane. So they were able to rotate over. Abel was stuck underneath the turret. Ming was back in base. No unsealed spellbook for the Tahm Kench. Meant he was there a little bit later than normal.
Amusingly, of course, we did just say that you should look towards the mid laners and who can rotate first to a trade. Well, this time it was everybody. And it turns out that Rogue Warriors were just slightly faster.
However, it's still a 1-for-1 trade, so gold is dead even between the two teams. Flaw's going to take some damage here. Paddlestar not going to be able to connect. He gets over the wall and back to safety.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of pings going out to where they think he is as well. Letme also moving down the river to place a ward, and we'll find that it is control warded. And he's a bit too afraid to go and check for Flawless because they think he's on the top side of the map. When in actual fact, he's doing blue buff for Doinb.
Ryze will be able to rotate over and pick that one up for himself.
Look how afraid they are. Xiaohu placed another ward. Shallow in the river in a very neutral position because they don't want to clear that control ward. What if he's there?
Don't blame him, to be honest. Flawless is very strong on this Lee Sin pick, and he's already showed that in this game alone. Yes, he's the only death for his team, but he started the big team fight for Rogue Warriors. We've already said Mouse has been left to his own devices top side of the map, farming on his own. Letme wants to stop that, throws out the battering ram, gets good damage on towards Mouse, trying to lock him down. He still has oranges available, and Mlxg will get the passive proc. Mouse eats an orange, he's fine for now. Mlxg though gets turned around on Mouse. Forces the ultimate out of Sejuani. Mouse still wants to go forward. Letme's at half health, tries to turn this one back around. Barrel's going to deal some decent damage. Flawless as well as Doinb were not able to rotate over towards this fight, but
they are now, Fish. They're rotating over right now. Doinb's working with Flawless. They're looking towards it very aggressively. And now they know there's no sleepy trouble bubble, so the pressure is here, the threat is there. And Rogue Warriors win the top lane as a result of Mouse coming up clutch in a 1v2. They couldn't kill him. And guess what, Fish? He still had a stopwatch. He was not dying.
He was not. Mouse kites that went out quite well in the top side of the map. Was not able to pick up any return kills, but forces the ultimates out of both top laner and jungler, and Doinb, as well as Flawless, get some time to rotate towards the top lane. Smlz using his ultimate to trim down the mid lane so that Xiaohu can't push effectively into that first turret, and Rogue Warriors will pick up the first turret top side of the map.
Great cross-map awareness from Smlz to throw the ultimate, as well as Rogue Warriors' entire roster going up to the top side when they can, as they can, to threaten down the structures, capitalizing on a Gangplank who didn't teleport into the fight, but had pushed the lane in instead, and getting that first structure to go down, a sizable gold advantage starts to grow.
Already, it's about 1,500 gold in favor of Rogue Warriors. Again, RNG, this is the team that was sent to Worlds for the LPL. Went all the way to the semifinals, performed well at the semifinals as well. Rogue Warriors, a relatively new team, but with some familiar faces of Mouse, of Doinb, of Smlz, and some superstars like Flawless who look so good when they get their signature champions.
Unfortunately for RNG, it doesn't really feel like they've done anything crazy poorly either. They missed an execution on a single team fight and things start to shift towards Rogue Warriors. I also don't think that Rogue Warriors have done anything exceptional in terms of macro play. They are doing it very well, I will say, but nothing surprising, nothing unexpected. And so far with the gold lead growing as it is right now, with a Gangplank on the side of Rogue Warriors, that gold lead will stretch further without any turrets, or with laning phase staying as it is and continuing forwards. It feels like now RNG are pressured to make the next move.
It's a Gangplank and an Ezreal, double Kleptomancy users. Gangplank will accelerate slightly faster thanks to his passive.
Certainly will, and of course you mentioned the bottom lane, Smlz having it, so 2 places of the map getting extra gold here and there. Two places of the map prolonging their laning phase as well by champion choice. And RNG losing those lanes. Losing the one lane they were realistically meant to win as well on the top side just because of the teleport play.
Doesn't work out. Bottom side of the map, you can see Abel is falling behind in CS against Smlz. Letme going for another fight here against Mouse. Gets the battering ram once again. Mouse tries to fight him around his own barrels.
Mouse is taking it.
Good damage against Letme. Pops his own ultimate. Tries to get the parlay down. Letme can't come back into this fight. That zone control is too good. And Mlxg just trying to be the body block, but look at this. The rest of Rogue Warriors are going to rotate. Mouse just has to survive for a little bit longer. Ming makes his way up to the top side of the map, cancels out one of the barrels. Letme is going to escape. Doinb now rejoins the fight. Ming will save his jungle and try to walk away. The rest of Rogue Warriors not close enough to pick off the rest of this fight.
Honestly, it feels like Mouse was too afraid of something coming out. He still had the stopwatch and chose not to use it on the Sejuani ultimate. So I'm not too sold on what he was looking for there besides maybe sniping the kill against Letme. Letme plays it very well, very cautiously, and never overpresses, oversteps to try and get something done. There's Doinb.
Still wants it.
All right, buddy.
Does have flash and he goes for it. Flash away coming out from Letme. We'll get that final Q, but Letme is way too tanky. One more auto attack would be enough. Doinb's chasing after, throws out the Q. Not in quite enough range. And Xiaohu follows up, picks up that return kill, picks up the revenge.
He just should not have gone for that play. Plain and simple. That is a massive mistake from the mid laner of Rogue Warriors. Uses the flash to go forwards. Letme had his flash the entire time and just gets out by walking away.
Very, very aggressive play coming out from Doinb. Does not work out for him. Mlxg is forced to move down into this bottom lane to help out with Abel, while Ming, after rotating to the top side of the map, has sacrificed some damage not only onto Abel, but also the bottom lane outer turret is now fairly low.
He picked up a smite. Thank you, Xiaohu. You can do your blue buff by yourself.
Again, not surprised. It's
No.
Zoe.
He can pick up whatever he desires. But yes, Doinb, that play in the top lane. Unfortunately for him, when you coincide with what just happened with Mouse, two mistakes have now happened back-to-back on the top lane. And that actually helps to equalize a lot of pressure for RNG. Unfortunately for RNG, though, their turret is already gone. The pressure is still there in the bottom lane. And Rogue Warriors have a very defined place that they should be looking at, especially when Mouse hits 11, especially when he gets 500 Serpents and upgrades his ultimate, and when his teleport is available. And they've got a couple of those things ready to go already.
Doinb's also been able to pick up his blue buff. We saw Xiaohu take his down all by himself earlier. Palisar dealing enough damage now to clear out the back line of minions. Doinb is able to wave clear quite effectively and still just trying to stay away from all the poke that Zoe can dish out.
If Zoe ever gets too close, the Ryze will chunk her out to about half health. Of course, a super fragile champion, but Xiaohu expertly playing at a medium range just outside of Ryze's engage. Now the pressure's actually shifted directions. You saw the move last wave. Doinb rotated to the bottom side of the map. Well, now the pressure is there for the Mountain Drake, but also for the bottom lane outer turret, which they could very easily look at.
Rogue Warriors pull 4 members down into this bottom lane. RNG have 3 here. Zoe is on her way. Rogue Warriors just slowly chipping away at this turret. They're not going to be able to take it down through brute force alone, but the poke is coming out for the rest of their members. Seizing good position control over that dragon if they ever try to move towards the objective.
Oh, Letme wants it again.
Goes for the one-on-one this time. No one else from RNG's on the top side of the map. Letme gets good damage onto Mouse. He pops a pot that he got from Kleptomancy. Gets a good amount of health back. And here comes Doinb teleporting into the top lane. Looking to try and get behind Letme. Mouse trying to bait it out with his low hit points. But Ryze is already here. There's nothing that Letme can really do. Mouse eats an orange, and here's K. RNG get a pick on the top side of the map.
Letme acknowledges that he is dead, but RNG is a full team. Also acknowledge that there's now no teleport to come down and assist. There is a Gangplank ultimate if they really wanted to, but they choose not to fight. They're not in the area. And whilst it was a nice pick, ultimately it's just going to be traded for objectives in the end with a bonus 300 gold to boot. However, it really comes down to if that Herald is placed successfully or if it's just a win for RNG.
So RNG will lose their top laner. They do take that Mountain Dragon. But during this time, Flawless has made his way to the top side of the map, picks up Rift Herald for his team. Doinb shoves in that top lane, denying CS away from Letme.
Doinb being 2-1-0 is actually a very bad omen for the side of RNG. Simply because when he plays Ryze, he builds tanky. If you don't know Doinb, he's probably going to have a Righteous Glory at some stage in this game.
Well, he's already started with the Abyssal Mask. Flawless going to use Rift Herald to get into this mid lane, get good damage in the mid lane out of turret. And Mlxg and Xiaohu are here, so they will be able to defend, but that's good chip damage on one of the most important turrets in the game.
And too hesitant to commit to anything. They just summon the Herald and they try and chip it down at the turret. They weren't actually willing to step up and hit the turret at all. And when you look at the minimap, the vision for Rogue Warriors, it's definitely there. They would have seen anybody coming from a neutral area. They just needed to respect behind the turret. I think that's what they were most afraid of. A Tahm Kench ultimate even for a counter engage is something that needs to be considered. I respect that they don't go up and make the play. It felt like they could.
We're checking with the bottom lane again. Smlz has his 2 items. Man Immune as well as Iceborne Gauntlet complete. Even the Ionian Boots of Lucidity have been picked up for Smlz. Just the Essence Reaver for Abel is available.
Yeah, he's actually very, very big. Smlz is a unit right now running around, and that commands respect. You can see Flawless already on the bottom side of the map. Killua coming back just after a recall. If ever there was a time to make a play in the bottom lane, utilize Mouse's ultimate and his teleport. It'd be pretty soon.
All summoner spells are up for the RNG bottom lane duo. Abel has swapped out his heal for a Ghost. So he has 2 escape summoner spells.
And he's gone a Ghost when he's against a Ryze. I think he's super reliant on Tahm Kench then. Xiaohu also has teleport currently, so if you want to counter gank something.
He's going to make his way down towards the bottom side of the map here. Sleepy Trouble Bubble does not connect onto Flawless or to Killua.
He did that blind. Flawless places a control ward in the Dragon Pit saying, "Where did you see me?" The answer was nowhere. So now he's wasted a control ward.
Small victories. The worst part about it is Xiaohu has absolutely no idea he got that small victory.
There's so much ward control for Rogue Warriors on the bottom side of the map. It feels like the calm before the stormfish. To take the plunge and make the play.
RNG spots out that this blue buff is being taken away by Doinb as well as Flawless. Picked up by Flawless.
That's
Zoe
okay.
tried to jump over.
They can always go back to their blue buff anyway. They should be able to clear the mid wave, walk straight over to it after Flawless does his red. So they just take a blue away from Xiaohu, and that does hurt the mid laner of RNG quite a lot. He's no longer got the teleport, and he doesn't have a lot of mana. So if you're Rogue Warriors, very much able to do something right now. If it's pushing deep vision, then it's pushing deep vision. But control is theirs for just a little bit of time as Mlxg is looking for the bottom lane gank.
And he's charging straight into that bottom lane, looking to try and buff up Ming as well as able to go for it, but jumps in, realizes it's not going to happen, and will back away.
Yeah, chooses not to take the plunge there. Mlxg on the Sejuani, he was behind the Ezreal. They may have been able to get a flash or something of the likes out of Smlz. They choose not to do anything. There's a lot of hesitance seen here from both of these teams to make a big play.
But for Rogue Warriors, they're scaling up quite nicely. As we mentioned, Smlz has 2 of his items complete. In fact, Mana Immune's been upgraded to Mirror Mana, so completing all the stacks on his Tier of the Goddess. Top side of the map, Mouse has his Trinity Force complete and is looking for his Youmuu's Ghostblade next. Already has both components available for that. He's actually heading back to base just as Doinb makes his way towards the bottom side of the map.
He's ulting in.
Looking to try and jump in. Teleport's coming in as well, but that's a flash as well as a heal from Smlz to get away from Abel and Ming.
You have to look at what cost as well. Xiaohu's going to put Doinb to bed for a little bit, but there was a teleport used by Mouse. And there was a teleport that is now gone on Letme also. With a couple of other summoner spells traded respectively between the bottom lane. Now that place just becomes even hotter than it currently was. Though it's harder to bring extra members up there, it may receive more attention.
So that play fizzles out, but Rogue Warriors still have a 2,000 gold lead over RNG, 21 minutes into the match. And as you mentioned, Rusty, it is the calm before the storm. We know that the average game times in the LPL are much lower than what we see internationally at the moment.
So I have to wonder what secondary runes Xiaohu has gone towards. I can tell he's in Domination, as he has zombie wards. And what is the second one that he's got? The cheap shot for dealing extra damage to targets that he's put to sleep, or is it the healing rune as well? For every time you damage somebody, you get health back.
You'd have to think it's cheap shot, because that is the go-to after the zombie ward.
I would say that the healing is underrated. I think it's very strong.
We know that the zombie ward is very heavily prioritized, especially by players in the LCK.
Oh yeah, Zombie Ward's just hectic. Like if you're getting domination at all, it's one of the two. Or one of the three if it's your primary tree. Flawless also on that Lee Sin with Electric here. Probably has it as well.
Speaking of Flawless, he helps out Rogue Warriors to start off this Cloud Dragon. Flawless has already picked up a Knight's Vow, uses that onto Smlz, buffing him up even further. But RNG trying to push through the mid lane. They're going to be able to take down mid lane outer turret. Equalize the turrets 1-to-1. Still 1,000 gold behind Rogue Warriors, and Rogue Warriors can't do anything but watch as that turret falls.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of class here from RNG, knowing they're behind and trying their hardest to not just stem the bleeding, but actually get advantages and trade as best they can in every scenario. So going for the Drake, it's a Cloud Drake. You know, Rogue Warriors, they'll get it, but they get a mid lane outer turret that's taken away from them as a response. That's a favorable trade for the side of RNG. They break mid lane outer. That opens the map up for everything that they could want. Meanwhile, Rogue Warriors, they are going to start implementing 1-3-1s and diversifying their playbook for strategy. But so far, RNG have been able to keep up with them, even though they started with a lead.
Well, they've put Gangplank in the bottom lane for now. Doinb on Ryze moves up towards the top side of the map. Already has that Abyssal's Mask as well as the Seraph's Embrace complete. So fairly tanky on this Ryze already. Mlxg trying to stop them from picking up that control ward. Not going to be able to do so and takes a lot of damage for it. Meanwhile, Ming gets into the back lines. However, Flawless is not going to be able to get out through the Ryze ultimate. He's trying to jump into the back of the pit, but the rest of RNG have cornered him. Gangplank ultimate does come out, trying to stop RNG from retreat, but that was an interaction there, Rusty.
I'm not sure what happened. What stopped him from going through? The Ryze had Zonias and everyone in the ultimate should have went. Am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Anyway, he doesn't get out, but he lives in the end. Had to use the kick. Mlxg was low, and it gives a lot of time for Rogue Warriors to get the mid lane turret and teleport.
They get just that. Teleport being used by Zoe. Trying to get behind Rogue Warriors, pushing for that mid lane outer turret. Doesn't get them anything.
He actually,
swapped out.
Yeah, swapped Unsealed Spellbook to teleport, and whilst he doesn't get anything, he's going to push top lane and defend his blue buff, which is something that Xiaohu does want to secure. At least this one, after the last one was stolen away from him.
Well, because RNG don't get a pick inside the Baron pit, Rogue Warriors have extended their lead. They're now about 4,000 gold ahead of RNG.
Starting to creep up just that little bit more. Adaptations as well. Doinb seems to have diversified from just the Righteous Glory. He wants to go straight into the Zonias. He has understood that the combo is there, and he should maintain having that combo. He was already building towards it before he had to use the stopwatch in that prior engage as well. So Doinb's changed it up this time.
He has an amplifying tome though, so it does look like he might go towards a Void Staff next. Not going to be the usual tank Ryze that we normally see out of Doinb.
No. Doinb has said that now that he's got other carries on the team, he can build more supportively, and we know in the past that he'll often want to do that, but going towards the Void Staff in this game, committing a little bit harder towards the carry path, might mean he feels the propensity, he feels a need even to carry.
Oh, he is across from 3 tanks in this match. Letme on Ornn, Mlxg on Sejuani, as well as Ming on the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, Void Staff is actually super necessary against all of the tanks.
Which has already been picked up by Xiaohu on the Zoe. As we take a look at the rest of the items, Smlz has completed his Blade of the Roan King, so he will be able to deal well with the tanks from RNG in this match. However, for Abel, still sitting on Essence Reaver as well as Phantom Dancer. Not quite as strong as the Ezreal at the moment.
But he has completed the second item, so the Essence Reaver is a little bit more efficient. The Phantom Dancer helps a lot with being a duelist as well. Abel is actually relatively strong now. And if we contrast him to Smlz, I don't feel like he has as much presence when he's running around. Yeah, there is pretty much a full item of difference between them. Smlz's gone towards an Iceborne Gauntlet, so he wants to clear some waves better, be a little bit more tanky whilst keeping the same cooldown reduction. He's rushed that cooldown reduction because he just wants to be a poke bot. He wants to work with mouse, start sieging, but siege with the purpose of poking down someone's health bar and then go for an objective or commit to a Lee Sin kick or play.
As Rogue Warriors continue to try and take vision control over the Barren River. Doinb clearing out a couple of wards that were left. Xiaohu still trying to find picks with the Trouble Bubble, but not able to get anyone from Rogue Warriors down just yet. Still a 3,600 gold lead for RW. They have Gangplank split pushing in the bottom lane. Mouse has the teleport available if he needs to join a team fight. 3 items complete for the Gangplank as well.
They're protecting Abel. At least, oh, actually.
Mlxg forces the fight against Flawless. He'll jump back out. Doinb now the one that's in trouble. Pops the ultimate as well as the Zhonya's. Gets out of the sticky situation. Janna goes to sleep, but Zoe is still looking for good paddle stars. Xiaohu will miss that one with the jump. As Flawless again in trouble. Big ultimate coming out from Letme. Will he get massive knockups? 3 of them. That's a flash forward coming out from Abel as well. Janna jumping into the team fight, trying to knock everyone back. Tornadoes coming out to disengage. Xiaohu flashing forward. Snipes off Killua. Puts Ezreal to sleep as well. And that paddle star from downtown picks up the double kill.
Xiaohu, massive RNG, still pushing forwards, and the mid laner of the team just comes up clutch when they need it most. It looked like a massive overcommitment, and Mouse is going to try and defend here, and he will be able to, you'd expect, but they're still sieging. They don't care about him.
They're tanking the turret. Ming just holds on to the aggro, will be able to take down the inhibitor turret for RNG, swinging the gold lead back. They're still not ahead, but catching back up to Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, so now they back away. They give the opportunity for just a Drake, it seems, to be secured by Rogue Warriors, and just an Ocean Drake at that, if they even choose to walk down there. We'll get to watch the team fight again. Flawless, out of position, gets caught. Doinb also has to use the Zhonya's ultimate very early on before he gets put to sleep. Now Xiaohu finds Killua, and he goes to sleep. It keeps happening. Xiaohu's finding target after target, and from here, you'd feel like maybe this is too much, even with the Ornn ultimate connecting onto everybody. Like, this is probably still a very difficult chase. But special mention once again, Doinb gets put to sleep by Xiaohu, and Abel comes up big with the ultimate. Even here, you feel like it's too much, but he one-hits the Janna. Then comes back in a second time after putting someone else to sleep. One hits them.
Beautiful play from Xiaohu. Once again, we saw this from them when they played against Jindong Gaming. Xiaohu picked up the Ornn, had a massive shockwave to save one of those 3 matches. Fortunately, they still lost. However, again in that team fight, just class performance out of him from on the Zoe. And Rogue Warriors, they're still ahead. They're still about 1,000 gold up against RNG.
Yeah, I was just looking at that as well. I was wondering that. About 1,000 gold, and how much of that actually belongs to the Gangplank is always going to be the question. You have to imagine that he has a sizable advantage. 3.5 items completed for him, compared to the 2.5, maybe 2 2/3, of course, for the Warmogs there of Letme.
That wave right there was 300 gold for Mouse. So he's going to be able to catch up quite nicely. Letme takes down another turret for RNG, pulling the gold lead back even closer.
If Mouse gets a Sterix gauge here and it's 4 items to 3, then that's pretty much where the gold difference lies between these teams. In one member of Rogue Warriors, as there is a ward in that pit still. They see you.
Rogue Warriors don't quite know.
They see you baiting.
They know, well, RNG know the Baron buff has been started, but don't have vision on the rest of the Rogue Warriors members.
Also, Doinb just quietly has got 350 CS at 29 minutes.
That's sneaky.
They were looking for the red buff. They wanted Abel.
Couldn't find him. Very sneaky play from Rogue Warriors. Curious use of the ultimate from Ryze. Doesn't net them anything. It doesn't cost them anything either.
They went through a Ryze ultimate to a place where they had no vision. But they are able to walk out unscathed because not even RNG would suspect they would go there. The madness.
They went fishing by jumping into the river, Rusty. Didn't get anything.
They definitely went fishing.
They didn't hurt themselves either, so they were okay.
They were fishing in a pond.
Now we just have to kind of see where this game will go. Because RNG, they are the veterans in the LPL. They're the ones that are used to these late game scenarios. Rogue Warriors have looked like a great team. They have a lot of very well-known names, but a relatively new team. But they are the ones with the scaling here.
It's RNG trying to maintain calm. And Rogue Warriors are trying to add some chaos into the mix, add some extra forceful strategy about it. Lee Sin's gone through that phase now of being effectively useless. Because of course that was used for vision. Don't be fooled. What you're looking for now though is that one big kick from Flawless. If he can get to Zoe, if he could get to Abel, if he could actually operate on the fact that he is a Lee Sin god, and those kicks are always possible late game. Tahm Kench
Gets behind Mouse, top side of map. RNG collapse. Good flash from Mouse. Tries to get him back away from it. Oranges keep him alive for a bit longer. Able trying to take him down. The final auto attack will do it. He flashes back in. Rogue Warriors are fairly low in the backlines of this. Letme taking up the dash, but Smlz almost falls there. The ram comes out from Letme. Snipes Smlz, splits the wickets right there, and Rogue Warriors lose 2.
The Horde comes in. RNG straight away to the Baron buff. The opportunity's there. The jungler of Rogue Warriors is alive, but is in bed right now. The Baron is being smacked.
Xiaohu is being a nuisance. Flawless is trying to find a way to jump into this pit when the Baron buff gets low. Xiaohu in trouble, takes a lot of damage from Doinb. Baron at 3,000 health. Janna goes to sleep. No damage to follow up to take her down. They're waiting to see if Flawless will commit to this. Paddle starts to commit. He stole it! Flawless steals the Baron right on the Mlxg's nose!
Thief in the night flashes out safely as well, and everything that RNG did has been completely undone by one member of Rogue Warriors. Flawless comes in so clutch.
And you take a look at again at another team fight that goes well from RNG, but Rogue Warriors come out with a gold lead.
It all starts off with Mouse being caught out of position. He does his absolute best to try and survive as well. Good little shield from Killua at the end, but the ultimate was out of range. So Janna's now wasted the ultimate. Abel locks them all down, and it's the Xiaohu party here. So he comes in and just smacks Smlz. The follow-up, just as the shield ends. Couldn't have timed it better.
Field goal was good against Smlz, but the highlight, the real highlight of that team fight was Flawless jumping in, stealing the Baron away from RNG. And despite the scoreboard being 7-2 in RNG's favor, Rogue Warriors have the gold lead and they have 2 minutes and 30 seconds of Baron buff to work with.
And there was only so long that RNG could have done that as well, as the pressure's starting to mount more and more between these teams.
Doinb's been able to lock down Abel, pops his ultimate very early to the fight, and Flawless kicks him back. Stopwatch used to keep him alive a bit longer, but for how long? Ming jumps in to save him, but he sacrificed himself. Double
Ryze
kill
ulti
for the Pirate. Ryze ultimate in towards the jungle, chasing down Xiaohu. Doinb cleans it up. 3 kills to Rogue Warriors.
And with 3 picks now and the Baron buff to boot on everybody alive of Rogue Warriors, they will run down the mid lane and try and take everything that they can. You're looking at not just one turret, you're looking at likely the inhibitor.
And it's 40 seconds on Xiaohu. The closest member is Ming. 15 seconds till he's back up. A long time on Abel as well. Rogue Warriors will make short work of this inhibitor.
Oh, they're still pushing forwards.
They want this. Letme's going to try and defend the base. Throws out the Ornn ultimate. Gets good damage. Knocks them up. But Letme now in trouble. Tries to run back. He falls. Rogue Warriors are onto the Nexus turrets. Ming is back up and alive. Killua popping the ultimate to keep them up. And Mlxg charges back in. But Rogue Warriors, they're crashing onto the Nexus. Getting as much damage as they can. They take down RNG in game number 1.
From a situation where RNG were starting to come back in the game, they were starting to forge themselves an advantage. Rogue Warriors steal a Baron, they win a team fight, and they steal the game away from RNG. That's got to sting. Game 1 in a best-of-3 series, and you lose like that. So quickly they lost. He's praying to Mlx Jesus for good fortune in game number 2, I think.
Oh, he has to, because how many Barons and Dragons have we seen stolen? And we just started week 3 of the LPL. There've just been that many so far in the LPL, Rusty.
Unfortunately, the Smite did make such a big difference for map control. Giving over the Baron buff, maybe they could have held on and played slowly, but then they lost a fight as well. The fight probably wouldn't have happened if they had the Baron buff, yes, but they still chose to take that fight. They got caught out of position straight afterwards, and Rogue Warriors collapsed very quickly.
And although it was RNG with the kill advantage, 7-6 at the end of the game, Rogue Warriors is the one that led throughout that entire match. Even when RNG were taking good fights, taking proper objectives, Rogue Warriors found a way to stay in this match. Smlz came out on top with Doinb and damage, and Flawless didn't have too much impact early, but in the late game he looked flawless pretty much.
He certainly did. He hit that late game point. I mean, even in the last team fight, he kicked the Sejuani into Xayah, opposed to kicking the Xayah for the extra damage to lock her down on the spot as well and allow the rest of the team to do their work and carry the rest of that team fight out. So clutch from him, super clutch to get the smite on top of all of that as well, but it was the whole roster performing. For me, RNG's bottom lane 2v2 were the ones lacking, where Smlz looked fantastic.
And Abel was one that got caught out for RNG in that late game that allowed Rogue Warriors to clean up the fight and push straight down the Nexus. Very decisive shot calling from them to end the game as well.
Yeah, the fact that they said it's not just an inhibitor, they took the aggressive call. That's something that you'll get in the LPL that you'll very rarely see in the LCK as well. Acknowledgement of just how far they can push their luck.
And Rogue Warriors pick up game number 1. Let's send it back to the desk to break it down.
Thank you so much, Fish. And that was a bit of a weird one because nothing really happened for most of the game, and it was just like, fight, fight, the game's over, and it goes to Rogue Warriors.
I think I was literally pinging it to my producer. I was like, what am I watching right now? Is this the NALCS? Like, what is this Resident Sleeper game? And then as soon as I said it, Xiaohu, like, must have heard me because he went into full gear.
Yeah, luckily we were tied into their headset, so they just got it into gear. But a lot of this started in Champion Select, so we're going to take a look at that one. And it was really interesting because we look at Jarvan, and Jarvan for the LPL is like catnip. Usually some jungler will go towards it and just gravitate towards it, but we have Flawless in this game.
Yeah, and we also have Mlxg, and while Mlxg is also known as a Jarvan player, high priority on Sejuani. We've seen her all throughout the LPL, her ability to start fights, the fact that she can duel a lot of junglers in 1v1s, due to her passive and her 3 proc, especially if she does some creative things with runes like on press the attack, excuse me. But what I really want people to focus on is kind of the bluffs that RNG were trying to pull with Rogue Warriors by taking the Tahm Kench. So the order of the draft was Sejuani, and then Ezreal, Lee Sin, and then Ornn and Kench. And Zoe fell down all the way to last pick. You can see her right there. And it's like, that's pretty much them looking at Doinb and saying, do you actually play it? And if not, we grab the safety net of Tahm Kench. And what's also then interesting is that, yes, Ryze is a decent matchup into Zoe. He's tanky, he's hard to burst out. If he snares her and locks her down, she's squishy, he can pop her like a balloon. But it's also just a great medium from Doinb. This guy loves to play Karma, loves to play Lulu, very weird, kind of supportive, tanky picks. Yep. The Galio ban speaks a lot to him because that's a perfect champion for him. And I feel like Ryze really fits into that. And I think that while I agree with RNG's strategy of trying to call RW's bluffs on Doinb's kind of weird champion pools sometimes, unfortunately, Ryze is so perfect in the meta right now, and Ryze is also very perfect for Doinb.
I mean, frankly, it looked like RNG from all of that had everything, because when you look at the composition without in which order the draft came through, you're like, that's a good composition. That should win. Ornn wins in topside. Fantastic. GP into Ornn? That seems horrible. But then at the same time, Flawless exists, and he has his Lee Sin, and it was just like, we just go all in on Lee Sin, all in on Flawless, and hey, it paid off.
Yeah, and a big issue also is that while Flawless was very proactive in the early game getting things down, there was that huge kind of mid-game blunder from RNG where they could actually press the aggression and kind of press forward the game, but they didn't do anything. And so I actually really blame RNG for that loss there. They were kind of in control. Like you said, they theoretically could have had the winning lanes across, they could have executed on things, and they just didn't. And that's very uncharacteristic for them.
Yeah, and we can take a look at that as well, because we do have a replay to illustrate what really went wrong in that game for RNG, because we look at this top side.
Yeah, and so this is the one time when RNG finally come back to life. You're like, okay, this is the RNG that I expect right there. Boom. Abel actually uses his ultimate aggressively. And I was like, paying attention to team fights, that was the 3rd time that he had done that, and it forces him to flash out. And at that point, things look okay for RNG. Yeah. Like, okay, maybe for the Baron call is bad, but your AD carry doesn't have flash. And in the very next team fight, the one that Abel is caught out, he doesn't have his flash, he uses his Featherstorm aggressively again for the 5th time that game, and he gets punished and they end the game. So, unfortunately, I hate to like just kind of nitpick or point fingers, but Abel really mispositioned multiple times throughout the entire game, and it finally bit him in the ass in the very last team fight.
Yeah, 100% in that mid lane. However, our man of the match will be Doinb in this one, so we're talking about his champion pawn. Does he play the Zoe? But he plays the Ryze, and that was a fantastic post from Doinb.
And the thing is Doinb was just called out. Rogue Warriors fell to LGD, and they effectively said, you know, we know that Doinb likes to build tanky usually. He was playing the Cassidy, he didn't really have any AP, so they just decided to engage on him and killed him. And so Doinb, like I said, Ryze just kind of fits that perfect hybrid of offering a lot of utility, a lot of tankiness, and a lot of ability to carry games. And guess what Abel's gonna do?
Watch Abel.
Yeah, he uses it after he gets locked forward. He's on the very front lines. He doesn't have a flash because he just used it on the top side of the map, and he gets popped like a balloon. And wrong place, wrong time. RW just grabbed the team fight. And this is what we're talking about. You know, the LPL teams, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. It's just one single team fight, and they automatically close the game.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're RNG or you're JD or you're Sunin. It doesn't matter what team you are. All teams are like this in the LPL. You give them anything, as you said, they will take the mile. They will take the game from you. But I also want to give props to Flawless, because he had the job available to him. But at the end of the day, he's a Lee Sin one trick. Like, you give the one trick as Lee Sin, he'll steal the Baron for you. He'll win the game for you.
But this is the problem. You doubt that RNG are going to do that again, especially because they have someone like Karsa and Mlxg on the roster. If they don't want to waste a ban on the Lee Sin, they can actually just pick it for themselves and have their own Lee Sin one-tricks run away with the game. Although that may be offensive to Karsa. He definitely plays more than Lee Sin. But I don't know. I don't know how long Rogue Warriors are going to keep getting away with this. They have very, very tiny champion pools pretty much in multiple positions, and yet they keep getting like their signature champions. Mouse on Gangplank, Doinb on Karma or Lulu or Ryze or something like that, and Flawless on Lee Sin.
I mean, eventually you do have to think that it will be exploited, but I have to say at this point, maybe we need a better team to try and exploit that, either in cross-conference or maybe JD Gaming when they go up against them again. But either way, we'll see if that is the case as we head to a short break as we get into game number 2.